What's up, Rangers? Welcome to the Geek Chest. My name's Steve, and today we're painting a T-Rex. As you can see, it's already been primered. I'm actually just going to start coloring it. Game plan is to make it look like the Jurassic Park 3 version. Doing this as a test run to see how this turns out. If this turns out good, I'm going to be doing a Spinosaurus here after this one. Doing the Spinosaurus, same thing. Doing that in the JP3 scheme as well. So it's going to be a lot of like yellow, green, tans. And what kind of looks like a dark, like black, dark blue. I haven't decided yet. Looking at photos, it looks more like a black. I did grab a dark blue just in case if I want to maybe change the coloring a little bit on it. So, I'm just going to let the camera run. I'm going to start painting, and then I'll show you guys the final product when I'm done.
Alright, so we actually are back here because I realized when looking at my footage, I kind of move around a lot. So I was going to be editing hardcore anyways. So we'll just go over how I went over the process, and I'll toss some of the parts of me actually painting this guy in there. But anyways, as you can see, the T-Rex is done in the back. This is stuff I wanted to showcase what I used in order to make his paint happen. For starters, we have my brushes, which these two are actually ones I haven't used, but these are the two types of brushes that I use for the large covering areas and also to highlight the details right here, like you see the black over top of this. I tend to use a very flat brush. I also, if you guys see in the video, I use one that kind of looks more similar to a it's kind of like a makeup brush. It's like very rounded, where I was tacking on the edges here. That's actually really good at getting into a lot of these crevices too, so it's also recommended, but mainly you'll just need a brush sort of like this for covering big areas too as well. And then you're going to want some brushes that have a nice fine point to them. A lot of this is just going to be like fine details. You're especially going to need one of these for the face. Same with just smaller versions of this brush in general. Some of the other stuff I use for the colors here primarily is fairly inexpensive acrylic paint. Use nutmeg brown for a lot of the brown coloring. I have an ivory here for the undersection of the body and the teeth. I use this ivory too, which is actually a much lighter ivory. This is what I also use for the undercoating of the teeth. And I went over it with this to kind of give it a little bit more of an old look. Use this for the dop on the eyes, but it's pretty much the only time I really used white was for the shine. Use pavement, which this was used a lot for the striping, the accent coloring over top of the skin, and also the scales on the feet. Then we have the palm leaf, which is the primary green for the dinosaur, red for the eyes. The inside of the mouth, I don't have a particular paint. I actually mixed a lot of paints together to get the coloring for that, but you guys will see that in a few. Jet black for the nails, and whoop, pale daffodil for the transition color between the ivory and the green, and also for the yellowing striping spots. And then for the sealing, I use some Mod Podge. This is the primary one I use for the clear acrylic sealer. This has a matte finish. And then I use the gloss finish here for the insides of the mouth. So when you're spraying it, pretty much you spray the entire dinosaur with the clear lacquer. And then you spray the... Pretty much what I did was I just opened the mouth and blasted it with the gloss Mod Podge. So that this would have a nice shine to it, plus you'll get a little bit on the teeth and around the mouth, where you expect it to be a little bit more wet or moist. Probably should use wet. Moist sounds weird. Now, just like I explained previously with the original intro, I modeled his coloring after the third Jurassic Park film, which sort of... I'm not 100% certain. I'd have to look at more information, but it looks exactly like it does in The Lost World for the Bull T-Rex. But a lot of the coloring I use for references is like the old Jurassic Park figures, as you can see here with the third part T-Rex figure here, the electronic battle damaged version. Also kind of use the Revoltech as a little bit of as a template for the paint job for him, and then just looking at a lot of like the Stan Winston photos and just shots of the animatronic from the movie, which my wife initially gave me crap because I added this little yellow here, which let me get this guy out of the way. We'll just start going over my thought process and how I primarily painted this guy to begin with. But when you see some of the shots of the animatronic, especially the Stan Winston, you see some of the yellow here. It was also a lot more black. So some of this figure I took a lot of liberties on. So it's not quite movie accurate, but I used a lot of different shots and just kind of made it my own, you know. But you can see for the head here, it's definitely got a very shiny. The nice thing about the matte acrylic silver is it gives it this nice little shine to it. Not super glossy, like you see on the inside of the mouth where it has that really nice shine to it. That has a lot more of a wet look than most of the rest of the skin here. This just seems more natural in a way, especially after using the acrylic paints where it had like a very dried, rough finish. Once you spray it with your clear, it has this actual like toy feel to it, which is really nice. But for the paint job, especially for the face, use a lot of the greens, the yellows. You see the tan here and a little bit of the yellow for the transition between the green, and then just went over top of it with that pavement color to help make the scaling pop a little bit more. But you guys can see the stripes on the top two that I added. Eyes turned out really nice. Used yellow, the standard red. I think it's standard red. I don't think there's anything special about it. With black and then a little bit of white eye shine for the pupils. You can see the stripes. Pretty much the yellow stripes start on the back here. I left one gap missing the yellow anyways. That's just because like we see some of it from the side. The yellowing to me didn't look very consistent. So I kind of made it like clump, and then it spreads apart as you get towards the end of the tail section here. Then for the skin area here, went over that with some of the pavement as well. You can see a lot of the greens here, yellows for the sides. And then this is where I use a lot of that brown paint to wash over top of it. Still kind of got to be a little bit careful with the hands. I don't quite trust those yet. The bottom turned out nice too with that ivory. Added some stripes here for the legs. Painted some of the yellowing on the side here too to kind of help match the undersection to the calves there. Just turned out pretty well. I added one extra stripe here just to give a little bit of diversity between the two. I don't know, it just seems like I had a lot more to work with in terms of leg room over here than on this side, but the inconsistency kind of makes it look a little bit more real. You can see the bottom of the toes here. That nice jet black there for the claws. Same with the little arm stubbles on the top there. Look pretty cool. Realize that one little articulation spot there when you move them. It's going to show a little bit of the old white, but not much I can really do about that. And then for the tail section here, so you guys can see a little better. Personally, I think it turned out pretty good, especially for my first time trying to do a full-size figure, like trying to replicate something that looks a little bit more real. Anyways, not too shabby. But for a lot of the paint job anyways. But you guys will see me in the video a lot. Like I said, for the top of the dinosaur here, I mainly just used a big brush, painted a lot of this over top of it. You start with the undersection, the yellowing, and then the greens. And you kind of just do it in layers. And then what I like to do is once I get like the base of the dinosaur set, that's where you start adding all your striping, and then going over top of it with the brush to help accent a lot of the colors, applying like the pavement color and make the skin pop a little bit better, stuff like that. Which you can pretty much use on a lot of figures too. It's pretty common, like you even see them on like the new Jakks Pacific Godzillas. They do a lot of the same technique too with those as well. A lot of this too is just like, when you're painting these things, one thing I will, if you guys like want to try to replicate this or just like paint your own Jurassic Park T-Rex anyways, is take your time. Like, it's going to take a while to get done no matter what. I think I probably spent about 6 hours on this, and I still don't think it's technically perfect, but good enough for me, because for the most part, like that little white spot on the arm, I'm not going to worry about that too much anyways. Like I might apply a little bit of paint there and then go back over it with the lacquer. But for the most part, this guy isn't going to be really played with anymore. And again, I wasn't thinking about trying to make this a lot more screen accurate, but I didn't really like it that when you look at the animatronic, it was super bright and everything blended. And because I want this guy to stand out a little bit more on the shelf, I ended up highlighting the yellow and the stripes a little bit better than what you've seen on the original, where it blends a lot more. Especially for like how minimal that dinosaur is in the movie. It's hard to tell with it moving around anyway, so a lot of the references you're going to have for painting this guy is the animatronic, and depending on who took the pictures is how crisp some of the stuff looks. The lighting changes how the face looks, with the animatronic not looking quite as dark as it does on certain other pictures. And a lot of this is just pretty much a test run too for when I get a Spinosaurus in. We're going to be doing the same thing to one of them. My game plan is to make it look like how it does in the third movie to match our bull T-Rex here. So the bull T-Rex has something to do. One thing I didn't point out for the inside of the mouth. You don't have to go super clean on it, because to be honest, the more inconsistent the paint looks, the more it actually kind of looks like flesh tone for the most part. And you just want to cover everything, and then if you muff up a couple of spots, you can always just go back over it later. As you can see me doing quite a bit, actually. It's one thing also that don't be afraid of is screwing up, because you can always just go back over and fix things eventually anyways. The only thing I don't quite like doing about these things compared to like my damaged buildings and what have you is when something's screwed up, it's noticeable. While on the old buildings and stuff that I do, whenever you have a little muff up on those things, it looks fine, because it just looks like it was meant to be, you know? But for the most part, really enjoyed making this guy. My wife gave me a lot of crap for this because she thought it was a lot darker than when I decided to paint this guy. Again, I kind of did like the middle ground between what I seen on the animatronic and what you see in the movie, because in the film he looks super dark. One thing I kind of want to do is add some like blood around the mouth, because you seen him eating the carcass originally, and then even when he's fighting the Spino, it's a lot more red around there, but decided to keep them clean, you know. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, I plan on doing some more of these. Actually, doing some of these photos on Instagram. I have a commission to do one of these, so we'll probably be doing a video of that guy here sometime in the near future, because he wants the gray T-Rex from the first movie. I think it's one of the animatronics. Is what the coloring is going to be based off of, so that'll be fun. And doing these dinosaurs too, what's cool is that these aren't like super expensive to get. Like this T-Rex was $20 for me to get. The paint, well, if you consider if you don't have anything, like the sealer is going to run you about $10. Paint, I think I paid $5 for all of that, and that's just brushes. Good to go. Also, well, you need a cup and water. There's stuff you need, but anyways, it's not gonna break the bank. Like, to paint this guy cost me like less than $40, which I don't think's too bad for $40. I'd pay $40 for this. But let me know in the comment section below if you guys would have paid $40 for this. And help us defeat those guys just by hitting that like button, subscribe, become a ranger today. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.